Wait, remember Wild Kratts? It's a PBS animated series starring Chris and Martin Kratt, two brothers who have a big passion for sharing their love of animals and knowledge of zoology to kids. If these names ring a bell or you are from my generation, you'd remember the pair most famously for Zoboomafoo or even Kratt's Creatures. Zoboomafoo I covered a while back on the channel, and also hinted that Wild Kratts would be something that I would eventually take a look into. I have a strong love for edutainment programs, so any chance that I've had to talk about shows like Bill Nye the Science Guy, Reading Rainbow, The Magic School Bus, Zoboomafoo, etc., I get really excited to talk about my personal connection to the program, or in the case of Wild Kratts here, get into why the show falls into this category so well and how it has connected with many out there while growing up. So let's take a look into what Wild Kratts is all about. Wild Kratts, much like how we see in nature, is the evolution of what the Kratt Brothers are all about. With how cartoons are constantly doing more to capture your attention, it was time to add an element of action and adventure into the world of this type of edutainment. Wild Kratts primarily focuses on the animated adventures of Chris and Martin, who ask the question, what if we had the creature powers, which are just the physical traits and abilities, of whatever animal the episode is putting a focus on. Through this, they end up getting to teach you, the audience, a lot more about this specific animal, as well as adding in some action in the way of helping out the animal in whatever current situation it is in, whether that be brought on by itself or through humans doing awful things. You see, Chris and Martin here are also these superheroes essentially, given these abilities from their outfits to take on the appearance and creature powers of the animal to aid in the situation. All in all, they have this team consisting of some engineers like Aviva, who puts together the cool gadgets and devices the brothers use, and Koki, who is the computer expert to catalog, analyze, and track animals, and there is also Jimmy Z, who pilots their ship, which is called the Tortuga. They all have larger roles to play than just that, but for the most part, those are their supporting roles that they play. Basically, the point of the brother-based animal wonder duo is to protect animals and nature, as well as preserving them both from befalling the atrocities of mankind that seek to take away their land or hunt them for their own personal gain. A lot of that is all backdrop stuff, as learning about the animals, what they can do, why they are cool, and to treat animals with love and care are all the real points that the series wants to highlight. In the end, we get to see the brothers transition back into their live-action selves, which is something we see at the beginning, but I'll talk about that shortly, as they then give us a bit of a recap as to what we learned about the animal, and telling you to keep on creature adventuring, we'll see you on the creature trail. There's no real ongoing story outside of each episode, making the show as accessible as possible to jump right into, helping it to be perfect for its purpose of getting you into learning about the specific subject matter, and also allowing it to become a generational show, as it has gone on for quite a long time and probably will continue to go on for much longer. But how do we get to this point for Wild Kratts? What are some things that make the show so interesting to bring young audiences in to watch it? Let's take a look and see.
Wild Kratts! Wild Kratts!
Much like in Zoboomafoo, the Kratt brothers want to make the experience of the show an amalgamation of both live action and animation. Zoboomafoo would be comprised of several different segments, with most being live action and sometimes adding in some animated segments. So things would be flipped here in the show, having the episodes open with Chris and Martin as they introduce the topical animal featured within, leading to them asking what if they had those powers, as we get to now see them both in their animated form as the adventure of the episode now plays out. And like I said, in the end, they transition back into live action, give you a recap, and say see you later. It's a solid setup that gives you a pretty informational intro that does its job at trying to excite you with what animal we will be seeing in the episode, to then letting all of that and more come to life in the animation, where you get both more information and fun facts, as well as a cool action-packed adventure. I can't ever stress enough how important edutainment media is in the efforts of making sure that it never feels like it's only just trying to teach you something and offers you little entertainment value. A good blend of having these natural learning moments that combine into the entertainment side usually equate to the best results for someone like me, who highly benefited and learned a lot through this form of education. Obviously, these areas all have specific use bits of information for anyone to learn, but for how it goes about teaching you them is where it counts, and in most cases can really stick with you. Again, I've said this many times, everyone's style of retaining information and learning is different, and what works for some may not work for others. So if you don't feel the same through edutainment programs like this, that's okay. To see where Chris and Martin came from to become these edutainment guides for multiple decades, we must go back to their earlier years with how their careers started. After they each went through school, with Martin getting a Bachelor of Science in Zoology from Duke University and Chris getting a Bachelor of Arts in Biology, both of them would come together and end up working with PBS as they were working on building kids programming with a major focus on education. At first, the brothers were able to create the show Kratt's Creatures, and through this build a strong relationship with PBS, and while this wasn't what either of them had in mind for their careers, both of them found this to be a great outlet for exploring parts of what they love and had a focus on from their education, and now being able to then bring that to a younger generation to learn about it in more of a hands-on way. I go deeper into everything about the Kratt Brothers and how all of this came to be in my Zoboomafoo video, so I'll have that link down below for you to check out if you'd like. But as time went on, further shows with them would be produced, and that brings us up to 2011, where their next show, Wild Kratts, would officially kick off its now nearly 15-year run and counting. No, seriously, Wild Kratts is still going on, and episodes for its latest season are still coming out, which is crazy cool to see shows like this, or heck, even Cyber Chase, still pumping out new episodes. While all of the other shows are filmed with so much of their fun and silly ways of learning, this show feels a lot more personal, with the Kratt brothers writing the series and getting to put so much more emphasis on the animals and the facts about them. PBS also put a lot of backing into this animated venture for the Kratts thanks to how well they have worked with one another, and for the fact that from the beginning of developing edutainment programming, the Kratt brothers were there with them. They also were able to bring in Ben Balistreri, who would take care of the character designs, as his work, whether it be character designing, writing, directing, or a plethora of other roles, has touched many things you have probably seen, like Danny Phantom, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Kid Cosmic, How to Train Your Dragon, and the list goes on. All around, this production had everyone coming together to make this next Kratt Brothers production something that could potentially become generational. Now, I want to take some time to talk about what I noticed from the show that I feel makes it so interesting and a great experience for those growing up with it. A big show for me, while not being directly focused on edutainment, that still taught me a lot about animals and the world in general, was the Wild Thornberrys. One of the show's biggest strong suits was its ability to showcase so many cool locations from around the world thanks to the family traveling around. With Wild Kratts, the series brings you all over the world as well, getting a chance to explore and talk about some cool areas in general to get a base bit of information about them and the wildlife that they house. I think this aspect is really cool, and I don't want to overlook it while speaking about the show. Now, the real star of the show here are the animals, and getting to hear both Chris and Martin voicing themselves and showcasing their genuine passion for zoology, making the focus on this so much more authentic. It feels like the teacher is the one still teaching. Chris and Martin didn't pass off the baton to someone else to go ahead and tell the story or explain all the facts that would be in the episode, and for someone like me who has seen their previous shows and knows how up close to the animals they got and how adventurous they are, it makes everything here feel like they would genuinely be doing this if they could. No, I'm not talking about the creature power suits that they have in the cartoon portion. I mean getting to showcase specific animals and the cool abilities that they have. In a quote from an interview they did with Variety back in 2021, Wild Kratts really became what it did thanks to what happened with them working on shoots in real life. While working on a Nat Geo series, the brothers couldn't get the footage they wanted to that would feature African wild dogs despite trying to for about a month. We had our open air truck, and in just trying to follow them when they went off on the hunt, I think we ended up with dozens of flat tires. We were stuck in the sand and mud like 5 times. The technology, our vehicle, couldn't keep up with these amazingly mobile predators we were trying to follow. We knew there were facts about them that we just couldn't show, so we started thinking, wow, with animation, anything we want to show, we can. Any wow fact, any interesting behavior. From there, Wild Kratts as an idea was born. Beyond that, in the show itself, the characters that they are of course more comedically heightened versions of who they actually are, making their interactions with the others on their team that help them feel a lot more fun and dynamic to the animated version of the world that they're in. The whole aspect about them having these creature power suits is pretty cool for the fact that it will give you these Ben 10-esque vibes. I mean, the transformations aren't as crazy as they can be in like Ben 10, and overall they just morph the suit around them to gain the characteristics of the animals, with the suit building in their power and abilities that the animals would have. But even still, this stuff is really cool and makes for some entertaining action, and some more lighter comedic moments.
Wild Kratts! Wild Kratts!
The series does have some antagonists within it that are usually a part of the situation that will have to be dealt with, and while they don't really ever feel that important, I do appreciate the different sides of problems from humanity that they represent, like wanting the animals for use in fashion or food, or even destroying natural habitats to establish more businesses and factories. While some things are more realistic than others through how villains like this in the series are portrayed, I do think discussing some of these topics in a lighter manner at least brings attention to real issues that can help someone learn more and want to see better outcomes for the world that they're growing up in. This is not done in a preachy way where it wants to drive these points home, but in a way that just has you curious to the grander world picture. So maybe you'll not want to support a brand that uses animal testing for their products, or maybe you'll want to do what you can to help animals who are displaced or in danger because of their habitats being destroyed. Whichever way you want to see it, the show mainly focuses on you having a respect and understanding of these animals. And if you're someone like me who does love animals, shows like this, or for me, Zoboomafoo, really make such an impact. Since it originally premiered at the start of 2011, the series has now run for 7 seasons, and like I said, still has episodes coming out and bringing more adventures. I think it's safe to say that this show has reached a point where multiple generations of kids have had a chance to experience the series at one point or another and had their moment in time with it before moving on with their lives. There will be someone who watches a video like this who remembers watching this in the early 2010s and hadn't thought about it for many years, while there might be someone watching this video who just watched the most recent episode, and I think that is really cool. Sure, you can see that for shows like SpongeBob SquarePants, which is great, and I love that, but I feel it means so much more to me as someone who truly appreciates edutainment for what it did for me growing up to see that happening in the edutainment genre. I hope to see Wild Kratts, especially for all of the good that it does offer, continue on for many years to come, or as long as the Kratt brothers want to keep it going. Heck, even if it does end, what's to stop Chris and Martin from coming up with their next production? Wild Kratts has a lot to love as the cartoon adventure edutainment series it presents itself as. It adds in this fun layer of action and villains and other ridiculous moments, but at its core, it has never forgotten what it wanted to do: to teach kids more about animals, the relationship between humans and animals on this planet, and even showcasing animals that some may have written off as mean or scary and help you understand them just a bit better. And maybe, soon enough, you might even see the Kratt brothers on the big screen as a feature film is in the works for Wild Kratts. But this is kind of unconfirmed as to what was meant by this. There have been several films for the series that premiered as special larger episodes, so who really knows here? But you know, stay tuned for if that becomes anything or not. Either way, they are currently like 170 episodes in for this show, and I implore you to at least check one episode out. And it could be any of them, just to see how the show becomes a great vessel to learn about these animals we share the world with. While as an adult I don't get too much from going and checking out episodes of the series now, I can totally see and appreciate how edutainment is constantly evolving and bringing the next generation in to care more about learning. The want to learn and understand more is the true beautiful outcome programs like this have, and Wild Kratts is another great example to add to the list of amazing pieces of edutainment. Plus, we get some fun action thrown around here and there, and that's cool too. But you tell me, do you have any experiences you're fond of with this show? If you grew up with part of it, were you from another generation like me who grew up with another Kratt Brothers production like Zoboomafoo? Let me know all of that and more in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit like on this video and to subscribe for more videos coming soon, but until then, later.